5 superpowers chosen ones get from being alone that make them different from 80% of people. It was a Tuesday when my world collapsed. I remember because I was supposed to meet my friends for our weekly trivia night, a tradition we'd kept for years. But as I reached for my phone to confirm the time, I found it silent. No messages, no calls, no reminders. Just an eerie, digital quietness that mirrored the sudden emptiness of my life. The day before, I'd lost my job in a surprise company restructure. My partner of 5 years had left, citing irreconcilable differences, and now, as I stood in my apartment, I realized my friends had forgotten about me too. Or perhaps, in the chaos of the past 24 hours, I'd forgotten about them. Either way, I was alone. Completely, utterly alone. At first, this solitude felt like a punishment, a cruel joke the universe was playing on me. I wandered my empty apartment, the silence deafening, the walls closing in. I tried to reach out, to reconnect, but it seemed as if an invisible barrier had been erected between me and the rest of the world. Calls went unanswered, messages unread. It was as if I had become a ghost, invisible to the world I once knew. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The initial panic of isolation gave way to a strange calm. In the absence of external noise, I began to hear something else, a quiet whisper, barely audible at first, but growing stronger with each passing day. It was my own voice, my true self, emerging from the depths of my being. It was then that I realized this wasn't a punishment, it was an invitation. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, had created a cocoon around me, a sacred space for transformation. This solitude wasn't meant to break me, it was meant to remake me. As I embraced this new reality, I began to notice changes within myself. Abilities I never knew I possessed started to surface. Strengths I couldn't have imagined began to take root. I was becoming something more than I was before, something extraordinary. This journey of solitude revealed to me that I was among the chosen ones, individuals selected by fate or the divine for a higher purpose. Our periods of isolation aren't random, they're crucibles designed to forge us into something greater, to awaken superpowers that set us apart from the majority of humanity. These aren't the flashy abilities of comic book heroes. They're subtle, profound shifts in perception and capability that transform us from ordinary individuals into beacons of wisdom and strength. Through my own experience and conversations with others who've walked this path, I've identified 5 key superpowers that emerge from this transformative solitude. Let me take you on a journey through these extraordinary abilities, gifts that make the chosen ones different from 80% of people. These are the superpowers that turn loneliness into a blessing, isolation into an opportunity, and solitude into a path to greatness. Dafru 1. Icehead, emotional control. The first and perhaps most foundational superpower that emerges from profound solitude is what I call Icehead, an unshakable emotional control that sets the chosen ones apart from the vast majority of people. When I first found myself alone, my emotions were a tempest. Anger, fear, sadness, and anxiety swirled within me, threatening to tear me apart. There were days when I couldn't get out of bed, paralyzed by the intensity of my feelings. Nights when I screamed into my pillow, raging against the unfairness of it all. But as the days stretched into weeks, something began to change. In the absence of external distractions, I was forced to confront these emotions head-on. There was nowhere to hide, no one to lean on. It was just me and the storm within. Slowly, painstakingly, I learned to navigate this internal weather. I began to observe my emotions rather than be consumed by them. I watched as anger rose and fell, as sadness ebbed and flowed. And in that observation, I found a strange sense of peace. This is the essence of Icehead, not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. It's the ability to remain calm in the face of chaos, to maintain clarity when others lose their heads. It's a serenity that goes beyond mere self-control. It's a fundamental shift in how we relate to our emotional landscape. Think of Jesus during his 40 days in the desert. Faced with temptation, isolation and physical hardship, he emerged not broken, but empowered. This is the kind of emotional fortitude that chosen ones develop through their trials of solitude. For most people, emotions are like a runaway train, carrying them along wherever they lead. But for those of us who have been forged in the crucible of solitude, emotions become tools, powerful allies that we can channel and direct. I remember the first time I realized the extent of this new ability. I was in a high-stakes meeting, presenting a project I'd been working on for months. As I stood before the room, I could feel the old anxiety rising, the trembling hands, the racing heart. But instead of being overwhelmed, I observed these sensations with a detached curiosity. I acknowledged them, accepted them, and then gently set them aside. My voice remained steady, my thoughts clear. It was as if I was watching myself from above, calm and collected, while others in the room visibly sweated and fidgeted. This is not to say that chosen ones don't feel deeply. On the contrary, our capacity for emotion is often greater than most. The difference is in how we relate to those emotions. We're not controlled by them. We dance with them, using their energy to fuel our purpose rather than derail it. Developing Icehead is like becoming a warrior of the soul. Just as a seasoned soldier remains calm under fire, we learn to maintain our composure in the face of life's greatest challenges. This emotional resilience becomes a cornerstone of our strength, allowing us to weather storms that would break most people. It's important to understand that this superpower isn't about suppressing emotions or becoming cold and unfeeling. Rather, it's about developing a deep, unshakable core of peace that allows us to feel everything fully without losing our center. This level of emotional mastery is rare. In a world where most people are at the mercy of their feelings, constantly reacting to external stimuli, the chosen ones stand out. We move through life with a grace and poise that others find both mysterious and magnetic. The development of Icehead is a gift of solitude, but it's not an easy one to receive. It requires facing our deepest fears, our most painful memories, our darkest shadows. It demands that we sit with discomfort, that we learn to find peace in the midst of turmoil. But for those willing to endure this internal crucible, the rewards are immeasurable. We emerge with a superpower that allows us to navigate life's challenges with extraordinary grace and resilience. We become pillars of strength, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. In a world that often feels chaotic and out of control, the chosen ones with their Icehead ability become beacons of calm. We demonstrate that it's possible to feel deeply without being controlled by those feelings, to engage fully with life while maintaining an inner stillness. This is a superpower that transforms not just the individual, but has the potential to change the world. Imagine a leader with this level of emotional mastery, or a teacher, or a parent. The ripple effects of this ability are profound and far-reaching. As chosen ones, we carry the responsibility of this gift. We're called to use our emotional mastery not to disconnect from the world, but to engage with it more fully and compassionately. We become living examples of what's possible when one learns to master their inner world. Dharmantam 2. X-ray vision, seeing beyond appearances. The second superpower that emerges from profound solitude is what I've come to call X-ray vision, an uncanny ability to see beyond surface appearances and perceive the deeper truths of people and situations. In the early days of my isolation, I found myself people-watching from my apartment window. At first, it was just a way to pass the time, to feel some connection to the outside world. But as days turned into weeks, I began to notice something strange. It was as if a veil was being lifted from my eyes. I started to see beyond the smiles and cheerful greetings of passers-by. I could sense the weight of worry on a hurried businessman's shoulders, the flicker of sadness in the eyes of a laughing teenager. It was disorienting at first, almost overwhelming. But gradually, I realized I had been gifted with a profound ability to perceive what others couldn't or wouldn't see. This X-ray vision isn't about literal sight. It's a heightened perception, a capacity to read between the lines of human behavior and see the truth beneath the surface. It's as if the chosen ones are given a special pair of glasses that allow us to see through the masks people wear in their daily lives. For most people, social interactions are taken at face value. They see the smile, hear the polite words, and move on. But for those of us who have developed this superpower through solitude, every interaction becomes a window into the soul. I remember the first time I fully realized the extent of this ability. I was at a cafe, my first real outing after months of isolation. As I sat there sipping my coffee, I found myself drawn to a couple at a nearby table. To anyone else, they would have looked like the perfect pair, holding hands, smiling, engaged in quiet conversation. But with my newfound X-ray vision, I saw something entirely different. I noticed the tension in the man's jaw, the way the woman's eyes darted nervously around the room. I could almost feel the undercurrent of unspoken words, of hidden resentments and fears. It was clear to me that their relationship was in trouble, despite the happy facade they presented to the world. This ability to see beyond appearances isn't always comfortable. It can be overwhelming to constantly perceive the hidden depths of those around us. But for the chosen ones, it becomes an invaluable tool for navigating the complexities of human interaction. With X-ray vision, we can spot insincerity a mile away. We can sense when someone is in pain, even if they're putting on a brave face. We can detect the subtle signs of deception, the tiny tells that reveal a person's true intentions. This superpower goes beyond just reading people. It extends to situations and events as well. Where others might see a series of random occurrences, we perceive patterns and connections. We can often anticipate outcomes that others find surprising, simply because we're able to see the deeper currents at play. Developing X-ray vision requires a willingness to look beyond our own preconceptions and biases. In the silence of solitude, we're forced to confront our own masks, our own hidden truths. This self-awareness becomes the foundation for our ability to see clearly into others. It's important to note that this superpower isn't about judgment. We don't use our X-ray vision to condemn or criticize. Instead, it allows us to approach others with greater compassion and understanding. We see the pain behind the anger, the fear behind the aggression. This deeper perception allows us to connect with others on a profound level, to offer support and guidance where it's truly needed. In a world where so much emphasis is placed on appearances, on presenting a perfect image to the world, the chosen ones with X-ray vision stand apart. We're not fooled by superficial charm or flashy presentations. We seek and value authenticity above all else. This ability can sometimes make us seem aloof or distant to others. We might be quiet in social situations, observing more than participating. But for those who get to know us, our insights can be transformative. We become trusted advisors, the ones people turn to when they need honest, clear-sighted perspective. The development of X-ray vision is a reminder that true wisdom often comes from stepping back from the noise of the world. In the quiet of solitude, we learn to see what truly matters, to perceive the essence of things beyond their outward form. For the chosen ones, this superpower becomes both a gift and a responsibility. We're called to use our perception not to manipulate or take advantage, but to bring more light and understanding into the world. We become bridges, helping others to see beyond their own limited perspectives. In a society often driven by superficiality and quick judgments, those with X-ray vision serve as a counterbalance. We remind others of the depth and complexity that exists within each person, each situation. We encourage a more nuanced, compassionate way of engaging with the world. As we continue to hone this ability, we find that it opens up new dimensions of experience. We begin to see the interconnectedness of all things, the hidden threads that tie seemingly unrelated events together. This deeper perception can be a source of great joy and wonder, allowing us to appreciate the intricate tapestry of life in a way that few others can. 3. Hyperclarity, decisive thinking. The third superpower that emerges from the depths of solitude is what I call hyperclarity, an extraordinary ability to think with razor-sharp precision and make decisions with unwavering confidence. In the early days of my isolation, my mind was a chaotic whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, doubts, fears, and conflicting ideas battled for dominance, leaving me paralyzed and unable to move forward. But as the noise of the outside world faded away, something remarkable began to happen. The mental fog started to lift, and in its place came a clarity of thought I had never experienced before. This hyper-clarity is like having a supercomputer installed in your brain. It's the ability to process complex information quickly, to see connections that others miss, and to arrive at decisions with a speed and certainty that can seem almost supernatural to those around us. For most people, decision-making is a process fraught with anxiety and second-guessing. They waffle between options, seek endless opinions, and often end up making choices based more on fear or external pressure than on clear, rational thought. But for the chosen ones who have developed hyper-clarity, decision-making becomes an almost effortless flow. I vividly remember the first time I fully realized the power of this new ability. I was faced with a major life decision, whether to take a job offer that would require moving to a new city. In the past, such a choice would have kept me up for nights, endlessly pros and cons. But as I sat with the decision, I felt an incredible sense of calm and focus descend over me. In a matter of minutes, I had analyzed the situation from every angle, considered all potential outcomes, and arrived at a decision that I knew, with absolute certainty, was the right one. This level of mental acuity and decisiveness is rare. It's reminiscent of the clarity that Moses must have felt on Mount Sinai, receiving divine guidance with perfect clarity. But for the chosen ones, this isn't a one-time event. It becomes our default mode of operation, a constant state of mental sharpness that sets us apart in every area of life. Hyperclarity isn't just about making big life decisions. It infuses every aspect of our thinking, from solving complex problems to navigating interpersonal relationships. We can cut through confusion and misinformation with ease, zeroing in on the truth of a situation with laser-like focus. This superpower is particularly valuable in today's world, where we're constantly bombarded with information and stimuli. While others become overwhelmed and scattered, the chosen ones with hyperclarity remain focused and centered. We're able to filter out the noise and concentrate on what truly matters. Developing this level of mental clarity requires a willingness to sit with our own thoughts, to face the hard truths about ourselves and the world around us. In the silence of solitude, we learn to quiet the incessant chatter of the mind, to move beyond surface-level thinking and tap into a deeper well of wisdom. It's important to understand that hyperclarity doesn't mean we always have all the answers. What it does mean is that we have an unwavering trust in our ability to find those answers. We approach problems and decisions with a calm confidence, knowing that we have the mental tools to navigate even the most complex situations. This superpower can sometimes make us seem aloof or detached to others. Our quick decision-making and unwavering certainty can be intimidating or even frustrating to those who are used to more drawn-out processes of deliberation. But for those who learn to trust our judgment, we become invaluable allies and advisors. The development of hyperclarity is a reminder of the power of a focused mind. In a world that often celebrates multitasking and constant activity, the chosen ones demonstrate the incredible results that can come from deep, single-pointed concentration. As with all our superpowers, hyperclarity comes with a responsibility. We're called to use this gift not just for our own benefit, but for the good of those around us. We become decision-makers and problem-solvers, helping to guide others through the complexities of life with our clear vision and decisive thinking. In professional settings, this ability often propels us into leadership roles. Our capacity for quick, accurate analysis and confident decision-making makes us natural leaders. We're able to steer teams and organizations through challenges that would leave others paralyzed with indecision. But perhaps even more importantly, hyperclarity allows us to navigate our personal lives with a sense of purpose and direction that few others achieve. We're less likely to be swayed by passing trends or social pressures. Instead, we make choices aligned with our deepest values and goals, leading to a life of authenticity and fulfillment. As we continue to hone this superpower, we find that it extends beyond our individual decision-making. We become clarity catalysts, helping others to cut through their mental fog and see situations with greater clarity. In group settings, we often become the ones who can articulate complex ideas simply, bringing clarity to discussions and moving projects forward. The development of hyperclarity is a testament to the transformative power of solitude. In a world that often equates busyness with productivity, we stand as a reminder of the incredible insights and abilities that can emerge when we give ourselves the space for deep, focused thought. 4. Pain sensor, deep empathy. The fourth superpower that emerges from profound solitude is what I've come to call the pain sensor, an extraordinary capacity for empathy that allows us to sense and deeply connect with the pain of others. In the depths of my isolation, I was forced to confront my own pain head-on. There was nowhere to hide, no distractions to dull the ache of loneliness, loss and fear. It was a grueling process, facing these emotions day after day. But as I learned to sit with my own suffering, something unexpected began to happen. I started to become acutely aware of the pain in others, even when they tried to hide it. This pain sensor isn't about being psychic or reading minds. It's a heightened sensitivity, an ability to pick up on the subtle cues that most people miss. It's as if our experiences of solitude and suffering attune us to a frequency of human emotion that others can't perceive. For most people, empathy is a surface-level experience. They might feel bad when a friend is visibly upset, or offer sympathy when someone shares a difficult experience. But for the chosen ones who have developed the pain sensor, empathy becomes a profound, almost visceral experience. We don't just see pain, we feel it, as if it were our own. I remember the first time I fully realized the extent of this new ability. I was at a friend's birthday party, my first social gathering after months of isolation. As I looked around the room of laughing, chatting people, I was suddenly overwhelmed by a wave of emotions that weren't my own. I could sense the anxiety lurking behind a colleague's bright smile, the deep loneliness masked by another friend's loud laughter. It was as if I could see the invisible wounds that everyone carried, the pain they were trying so hard to hide. This level of empathy is rare and can be overwhelming at first. It's like suddenly gaining the ability to hear a frequency that no one else can. Beautiful, but also potentially deafening if we don't learn to manage it. The pain sensor goes beyond just recognizing that someone is hurting. It allows us to understand the nature of their pain, often better than they do themselves. We become attuned to the root causes of suffering, the patterns of thought and behavior that lead to emotional distress. This superpower transforms how we interact with others. Where most people might offer platitudes or try to cheer someone up with surface-level positivity, we can offer a deeper, more meaningful form of support. We know intuitively when someone needs a listening ear, a word of encouragement, or simply silent companionship. Developing the pain sensor requires a willingness to face our own shadows, to sit with our own discomfort and pain. It's only by fully acknowledging and accepting our own suffering that we become capable of truly sensing and empathizing with the pain of others. It's important to note that this superpower isn't about taking on everyone else's pain as our own. That would be unsustainable and ultimately unhelpful. Instead, it's about developing a compassionate awareness that allows us to be present with others in their suffering without being overwhelmed by it. The pain sensor makes us natural healers and counselors. People are often drawn to us without knowing why, sensing on some level that we can understand their pain in a way that others can't. We become safe harbors, people who others trust with their deepest fears and insecurities. This ability can sometimes be a heavy burden. We can't simply turn it off, and being constantly aware of the pain around us can be emotionally taxing. But for the chosen ones, it becomes a central part of our purpose. We understand that our capacity to sense and empathize with pain is a gift that allows us to bring more light and healing into the world. In professional settings, the pain sensor often leads us to roles where we can make a significant impact on others' well-being. We might become therapists, coaches, teachers, checkers, or leaders who prioritize the emotional health of those we work with. Our ability to sense underlying issues and address them compassionately makes us incredibly effective in these roles. But perhaps even more importantly, this superpower transforms our personal relationships. We become the friends who others turn to in times of crisis, the partners who can offer deep understanding and support. Our relationships are characterized by a level of emotional intimacy and authenticity that few others achieve. As we continue to develop this ability, we find that it extends beyond individual interactions. We become attuned to the collective pain of communities and societies. This can drive us to become advocates for change, working to address the root causes of suffering on a larger scale. The development of the pain sensor is a powerful reminder of the transformative potential of our own suffering. Through our experiences of solitude and pain, we gain the ability to be truly present with others in their darkest moments. We become living proof that it's possible to move through suffering and emerge with greater compassion and strength. In a world that often tries to avoid or numb pain, the chosen ones with the pain sensor serve as a counterbalance. We remind others of the importance of acknowledging and working through difficult emotions. We demonstrate that true strength isn't about avoiding pain, but about facing it with courage and using it as a catalyst for growth and connection. As we embrace this superpower, we find that it doesn't just allow us to sense pain, it also attunes us to joy, love, and the full spectrum of human emotion. We develop a rich, nuanced understanding of the human experience that brings depth and meaning to every interaction. The pain sensor is perhaps one of the most profound gifts that comes from our journey through solitude. It transforms us from isolated individuals into deeply connected beings, capable of forging meaningful bonds and bringing healing to a world in desperate need of empathy and understanding. 5. Our time alchemists, turning solitude into wisdom. The fifth and final superpower that emerges from profound solitude is what I call time alchemy, an extraordinary ability to transmute the lead of loneliness into the gold of wisdom and personal growth. In the early days of my isolation, time seemed to stretch endlessly. Hours felt like days, days like weeks. The solitude was heavy, oppressive. I found myself desperately trying to fill every moment, to escape the weight of being alone with my thoughts. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, something remarkable began to happen. I started to see time differently, to understand its true value and potential. This time alchemy isn't about controlling time in a literal sense. It's about developing a profound ability to use periods of solitude as a crucible for personal transformation. Where most people see loneliness as something to be avoided at all costs, the chosen ones learn to embrace it as an opportunity for deep, meaningful growth. For the majority of people, being alone is uncomfortable. They fill their time with distractions, endless scrolling on social media, binge-watching TV shows, anything to avoid sitting with their own thoughts. But for those of us who have developed time alchemy, solitude becomes a precious resource, a space for introspection, creativity, and self-discovery. I vividly remember the moment when I first realized the full extent of this ability. I was sitting in my apartment, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues of orange and pink. In that moment, I was struck by a profound sense of peace and clarity. I realized that in the months of my isolation, I had grown more than I had in years of busy social life. The pain and loneliness I had experienced had been transformed into deep insights about myself and the world around me. This level of personal growth and self-awareness is rare. It's reminiscent of the alchemists of old, who sought to turn base metals into gold. But instead of working with physical elements, we work with the raw material of our experiences, transmuting even the most difficult emotions into wisdom and inner strength. Time alchemy goes beyond just making good use of our alone time. It's about fundamentally changing our relationship with solitude. We learn to see it not as an absence of connection, but as a different kind of connection, a deep, nourishing link to our inner selves and to the universe at large. This superpower transforms how we approach life. Where others might frantically fill their calendars with social engagements, we understand the value of carving out time for solitude. We become masters of balance, able to engage fully with the world while also nurturing our inner lives, developing time. Alchemy requires a willingness to sit with discomfort, to face the fears and insecurities that arise when we're alone with our thoughts. It demands patience and trust in the process of growth, even when progress isn't immediately visible. It's important to note that this superpower isn't about becoming a hermit or withdrawing from the world. Instead, it's about developing the ability to find richness and meaning in every moment, whether we're alone or in company. We bring the insights gained in solitude into our interactions with others, enriching our relationships and our impact on the world. The time alchemists among us often become prolific creators. In the silence of solitude, we tap into wells of creativity that others can't access. We write books, create art, develop innovative ideas, not despite our alone time, but because of it. This ability can sometimes make us seem different or even intimidating to others. In a society that often equates constant social activity with success and happiness, our comfort with solitude can be misunderstood. But for those who learn to appreciate our unique perspective, we become invaluable sources of wisdom and inspiration. As we continue to hone this superpower, we find that it extends beyond our personal growth. We become advocates for the importance of solitude and introspection in a world that increasingly devalues these experiences. We teach others how to find peace and purpose in quiet moments, how to turn their own challenges into opportunities for growth. The development of time alchemy is a powerful reminder of the transformative potential that exists within each of us. Through our journey of solitude, we discover that the greatest source of wisdom and strength isn't found in external validation or constant stimulation, but in the quiet depths of our own being. In professional settings, this ability often sets us apart as visionaries and innovators. Our capacity for deep thought and our unique perspectives, cultivated in solitude, allow us to see solutions and opportunities that others miss. We become the ones who can step back from the day-to-day bustle and see the bigger picture, guiding teams and organizations toward more meaningful goals. But perhaps even more importantly, time alchemy allows us to live lives of extraordinary richness and depth. We're less likely to be swept along by the currents of societal expectations or fleeting trends. Instead, we chart our own course, guided by the wisdom we've cultivated through our alchemical process. As we embrace this superpower, we find that it doesn't just transform our experience of solitude. It changes how we engage with every aspect of life. We bring a quality of presence and depth to our interactions that enriches not only our own lives, but the lives of those around us. The time alchemy superpower is perhaps the culmination of our journey through solitude. It represents our ability to find meaning and growth in any circumstance, to turn even the most challenging experiences into opportunities for transformation. In mastering this ability, we truly set ourselves apart, becoming not just survivors of solitude, but alchemists of the human experience. Conclusion. As I reflect on these 5 superpowers, Ice Head, X-ray vision, hyperclarity, pain sensor, and time alchemy, I'm struck by the profound transformation that solitude has wrought in my life. What once felt like a punishment has revealed itself to be the greatest gift I could have received. These abilities set us, the chosen ones, apart from the majority. They allow us to navigate life with a depth of understanding, emotional control, and wisdom that few others achieve. But with these gifts comes a responsibility to use our unique perspectives and abilities to bring more light, understanding, and healing to the world. I invite you, dear reader, to reflect on your own experiences with solitude. Have you felt the stirrings of these superpowers within yourself? Have there been moments when you sensed that your alone time was more than just loneliness, that it was an invitation to something greater? Perhaps you, too, are among the chosen ones, called to a higher purpose through the crucible of solitude. If so, I encourage you to embrace this journey, to trust in the process of transformation. Even when it feels challenging, the world needs the gifts that only you, with your unique experiences and insights, can bring. Remember, true strength often emerges from our most difficult experiences. In the quiet moments, in the spaces between the noise of everyday life, we have the opportunity to connect with our deepest selves and unlock extraordinary abilities. So the next time you find yourself alone, Instead of reaching for distraction, try sitting with the silence. Listen to the whispers of your inner voice. You may just discover that you too possess superpowers waiting to be awakened. In the end, the greatest transformation isn't just in gaining these abilities, it's in recognizing the inherent value of our own company, in finding completeness within ourselves. That, perhaps, is the true superpower that solitude offers to those willing to embrace its lessons.